I was here, I know I say, today's agenda and twice so. Ora, I could do a cover.
Yeah, right.
Lawyer. Walk all there.
Nyamiadum, bro.
Okay. Oh, I'm Ranty Felix Mantino. No,
I'm
also said that your friend doctor, Dr. Felix Mantino. But if we don't know, pay no ever be ding. Now, I'm sure he CG and send me a show say, yeah, as I say, at least, ultimately pass a comment to be often say, who be here, say, who be doing come on, there be no, a woman say, tax aspect, into Yana will show my sick as 7 day. But to us, answer the law, I bet we move off CG. And I'm sure every politician.
Every politician.
Felix.
Felix,
communication director, and then pre-papa preco. So, Papa was in the party, and do any packet one was, and also a security expert. Okay, our Kofi and Peace Keeping Center, Oguswa is already doctorate or any packet one. Wow, I am getting. If I was a parliamentary candidate then, wow, and the map pre-papa preco. Share, constantly be a Ashaman. Hey,
Maminchia, I have 4 inch for inch crew, Minchia, lawyer, Naminchia PPP for Progressive People's Party, Dr. Pakwasindi, and the National Committee Chairman, and an Anoforu's National Chairman, and the regional executives in
National Committee Chairman,
Dr. Indum.
Okay, and I'm one National Chairman.
National Chairman, only the functional executive. Chairman and Nana Furious and national executives in India and the constituencies, especially Ashama. But I'll continue to say this: Ghana Water Company.
Still, is one of my.
Is one of my.
Hey,
and you know,
Ashama is one of my.
As a sort of Stanley Martin, I will be some.
Then so I say every time they're on.
Almost 2 months new.
Oh, and they say change your
tap. No, my bed since
say resetting
the end.
Resetting in the
This cannot be a resetting agenda. Insu is life. It will deprive you in sewer.
For 2 months.
For 2 months. For every week, the tone so almost 500 Ghana cedis. Wow. So you can imagine the impact.
Oh,
it was flowing, continuous. January, by middle of January, so after that, so maybe my go to the center of Bisas Ebia and Akmon Headwest and pumping so but almost Mount Headwest, almost pumping so the back a shaman booster station. So they don't know the reason why I am enclave no. Some parts.
Yeah, we want to the Shama the same China, you bet launch Ukada into the Anona,
yes, Ghana Water Company, a Palm Chopper, Zenu, Atadeka, Lebanon, Washington,
beautiful lands.
All those places in Suma. Yes, wrong.
I was in the passion.
The packet. Tia and Papa, Kufo gallon back 1 day ACDs. Oh, so you can imagine the impact. I go through. You know, Ghana Water Company. NDC, Solomon, Ashama in the no, Solomon, Z or whatever. Okay, a win. Joseph, on Joe Tion Fred Joti, on a win. As Bon Catamanso, and away win. And yes, so we need water. We are suffering. Well, having said that, things are happening in this country, especially for occupants of key and important national positions. For instance, they say the CJ in Sema, Ababa Bedahono. But me, I take it from the perspective, say, position be at the Bema as a leader of the country. And so I'm say, it will not be your bona fide forever. There are times you will be called to account for a dear where they and in way who be that say petition for the removal of a CJ uncharted terrain. We are looking at how it is going to be handled. Say according to how and what the Constitution has stated and on a procedure no ebe faso pepepe and I say there will be some underhand dealings be in it. Intini you will be yafi any call the process. Ubia bibia mrabia nsi ubia no kwan say occupy position ya. So who are dancing, just a woman per se, and I say, only
the keyword they are dancing. Who are dancing?
I said to them, the buy. So who are dancing, said, oh, Nippon, and say,
misconducted,
yeah, one, and so war because of Nema way in Tia. We be in sequence of Fabra. It's ultimately support your evidence, your allegation with evidence, not processes no, and go through smoothly, transparently. Unbiased manner. Now say at the end of the day, nipa na ne ho son wa ne ho son no ko ne baby. Ne ho so anya son so a na ya eden ya mra ne si yenye no na yatumi ya. Into me, I don't blame anybody who has petitioned.
Yeah.
Say go and
no petition a 3.
A 3, but the main one I mean Matimu Professor Kweku Asare, Edian, that is Kweku Aza, Nediano, and but the others I don't know who they are. Say goes to say why you me, I don't know. The Kweku Asare because I know the publicly to make some pronouncements. Say this is what I am doing or I'm going to do, and you know, I think we are in a democracy. Ubia to me as personal, but wouldn't be. Something the Progressive People's Party has proposed over the period.
The Baba proposal, so like Maminti Okakamesa Bam. Okay. Now the proposal now more proposal over the period. Still an Omunya Kwama Bemunanka, Omo family man, Meban Sona Waka. We know who be Kakra account.
Oh, yeah, I didn't check. Check a Magana for a tea for for. Say, me read you or social media, no. Say, hey, so. What is happening? Inti me share not just say 3 petitions and
why were you surprised?
Say why was I surprised? Probably maybe because we have voted the new president, the government are taking shape to make sure say they manage the economy. And one of the key positions, and at this stage, you know, when I saw it, you know, I began to ask myself a lot of questions. But to send you a everybody has got the right. Say, full say being kosui na yebenu biasia. But the question is, say ibisa on some of these things, and it said when I read it. Now maybe some say okay, there is constitutional provision per Article 146. Now we share the removal of some of the superior courts, superior court judges. Now, there must have been some prima facie case or evidence. I just say nyina so bi angasa me establish it. But we share CJ side now. Say prima facie aspect no, subtle kakra, but using the purposive no, so share broad. Now will be who say. See nyina so say you're picking it from a point
of
prima.
Also a judge of the Supreme Court.
Yes.
And a old lady.
Yes.
And the shows any bit different from when it comes to evidence in a prima facie.
Yeah, Metias sir na ono ni ye no utum say ono na epiem. Enti say nya, of course the constitution might not have stated it explicitly. But see it me establish it cogently say was a prima facie evidence ye jinaso unse sisia no asenie no you see the modern purposive approach say ubiem na uhwe na as a whole umfa trust say na mehuni say na mehuni say o kan bibia bom na ede sa constitutional rights and I say human rights na ye kan ho asem eba it is too early to make more delvings into this issue for now because Minyan Ntie said the president has referred it to the Council of State. And Minyan Ntie also said the chief
it was announced by the office of the president, the spokesperson, communication department. They said president I referred because open said the
all right.
And non the cover by say then media because you have to let the chief justice know by way of fairness as a say we na me dey because na say Council of State na advice say set committee na no then you start ma step aside Inti na ade no wa he na wo de ne na for controversy dia.
Yeah, inti say obia on the right and na CJ no so no we Ghana ni and no sign a public official. Inti se bibisa e kochewa e be ha na djuma. Things that she also has a right say on also be requested. Pay, pay what has been published today. Inti I think say from the point of the executive, from the point of the CJ,
it's interesting. It's CJ is smart. Adene woman ankasa no. Are you trying to find a way now a court nearby or say step aside? Not just step aside there.
Not just
replace me with somebody. And quickly or no, I appeal. Say let me see it.
Yeah.
So what man who they are? Not just say why you money be actually. That's how I mean who know. Say the system they say what man who they are. Not just why you money be actually. Until let's see how it goes.
Yeah, it's a very dicey issue, but I think that the proper thing has to be done so that wherever that it does go, no, will be arguing fine. It's too early to delve into it. Based on the fact that CJ now make a request, formal request to get what is inherent to the content of we say no. Until let's hold on until
former Deputy Attorney General
okay.
Is there an opportunity say be a basse you say ampa ya hwehwe mu no e be abo enti ye free, so is there an opportunity to go to a court now so I could prove say dey na mo kanu na enye no kra no say bin see that the event mo say
it's a novel terrain we are charting enti ye modern say bebu o mind no na yenya posterity facts and say enyoma edi animo a dachi ne betimi agina so asi ebu say oh ye di o man share nsa no obia enya ne fa ho die ye na adwuma se ne sitie the ane ha me say if something is born out of malice if we are say ade hadwin pa ne say una obi e bibi no wo adwinmuka e wachiri. That's very difficult thing to unearth that thing. And secondly so no e go kra nipa no kra no no stress but I don't know what is in, but say enye sa na ye adwuma kwan so fine a obi wonyina so a sabi untimi nkanto nchen de dia and emra ne mpanifo munyinam because everybody has got his rights and everybody ye CJ ni free okra or ye Ghana ni a or one fundamental human rights sabi untimi ntoto nase.
Okay, thank you so much. Phyllis, now we can say prepare
so I say
Progressive People Party propose a biananka modeba
to avoid some of this arbitrariness ni assumed say biao adewe political interference and other things. We have proposed say ansana this institutional has a bit assuming position. It's a position by vacant. Those who want to occupy should go through their ranks, advertise the position, let the Public Services Commission vet them, now and select one to be given to Parliament for onward grilling and sana. Yeah, approval nipa. And no sir. Most assumption man forecast say a president when they appointed nipa na just obey the bidding of the president. You know
the other president
ba say it's not on my side. You know I want to find ways and means of removing the person. Say nipa no go through the normal process of saying ya pre jumape any yensaka. Let's take for instance a president goes through voting process even though or contesting on a parliament political party or we near yenina ni Agyapong. You check the election of the Speaker of Parliament, another arm of government, or also our representatives in the election. So at the end of the day, this assumes that the person do only neutral, but the biases will be killed. The no will help the person to stay on with free mind and what you may obey. The second thing that we have proposed also is that maybe question I said you can be a judge forever. That is a done deal. But why must you be a Chief Justice forever? Senior arm of government, President, what term of office? The legislature, Speaker, what term of office? The Chief Justice must have a term of office.
Say 5 years.
Say 5 years, 6 years. And you know, or no, renewable, maybe. Or no, a year, 5 years, 6 years, none tenure and so ya. until say be our be a chance so pounds and we bet me I say we are petitioning and
is it not by senior most no what they appoint and I said because a political appointment
and
then found say your senior and so your senior
come from
you can select from anywhere. Let's take for instance the selection or the appointment of these security heads. You can test to the military, for instance. Nipana
is a bit
Juromina, Diego, Amene, or no Swababenia. I know a one star when you're 2 star. He's my mate at the PhD level. He's my mate. And you know, it's like we have assumed and proposed to say, let the institutional heads go through the ranks, get the vacancy advertised, or no, for say we're competent to know qualify. Let them apply. Public Services Commission, I interview on near for say we better no. Yeah, the number Parliament.
Because in Nigeria, how you can see, you know, check in Nigeria. Tinubu appointment a jury generals in about 200.
So to avoid this political.
But in terms of Sikaya the mount because Okofi no or that's we a general or Begina Ketri or Begina allowances or Begini BBA.
So they retire on their salaries. So they retire on their salaries, they don't retire on their allowances.
Okay.
Salary no.
Retire on the benefit or the Kofi or
the benefits they are the man. I know they are lump sum. But you can't salary no. They will retire on the salaries forever. But they remove you are not retiring on it. Say you to say you be a process that say you Charlotte say
misconduct.
No, you are out. You are not. But when you retire, you are retired. But my argument in PPP argument has been said, let these institutional heads go through the ranks, selective one, not by the presidential appointment. The president will approve them or swear them in, but go through ranks. And then to say all other arms of government, term of office, oh, a judge, you can be a judge forever. That one will be a new problem. But Chief Justice, the leadership, and no, as you say, it should be. And we are proposing to the Constitutional Review Committee, say they should look at it because of some of these things. Say, Ubifo say, and American Ubifo say, I bind that down I appoint intino, Nejuma Dino, Emifiva, me my bind. So let me find a way. Some people petition, those who are not interested in him, no more issues with him will petition. And maybe the obey, but to find a way to do something, Council of State, send your son and brother Aka. Now, Council of State advises as part of the consultation because he said, I don't crano. It tells a lot about Nipano occupy position. The moment you take the step, Master, I wouldn't feel comfortable. Frankly speaking, I wouldn't feel comfortable.
Philip, I am so far 2-3 months in governance. This are my Osha hen or the Namo Usha the who clear cut baby.
Well, on say you pass it and our budget the budget by a week or two. So if you understand real government policies or by the
near money say was a budget, if you my idea be said this budget I cannot buy every actually. For example, I remember in India President Kufo President Awanya the baby crow. President Kufo buy and I who say economy no and straight away you call pick. Na botaya is see any so any nearma a debe benny. And near you know Nami Huno rule of law and I feel Yesikasem or the Konam Paisikasem what to me a peja Eddie Jina baby. President Akufo-Addo buy and as I walk here and nearma bakwa and I you know Anami who a educational sector and I feel or the rule of law so a bata or any Yesikasem. A chain Yesikasem a better bata high no. Well,
I will still maintain self. For me, it's still we are in 3 months. Government policy and Kasa, if you be taking off and Kasa. So I will still give them a leeway up to the 6 months. Okay. But near me person training yourself. Say there are assumption now person the boom money say we are resetting. And I would read the budget now. Critical analysis will demonstrate to some extent that they want to look at economic sustainability and I say debt sustainability because the presentation. Oma explain it to us say Oma yedeka and I would the council so we and sana nya person we and kasano. were to me aye. So for the first maybe after budget review, media budget review, no, and critical key issues, no, me to me, I can't want sempa, but proposals are making in the budget, some of babe. Let's take for instance, agriculture, transformation, agenda, almost by the middle of the year. I want to see that kind of transformation. Sabia, it has kicked off.
Agri transformation and yet or more flagship policy and almost one day 24-hour economy and then almost flagship policy.
But Ghana's, they said 24-hour economy or whatever, Ghana's economic foundation pillars must stand on something. 24-hour economy cannot be in the skies. It must have some legs to stand on. Okay, and my supervisor, I throw presentation nice one. Could be year presentation. No, we you have had a very nice, beautiful presentation with legs, but it doesn't have legs. So now. We calculate 24-hour economy. I was looking at upon what foundation lex bensuna obejina until me who agricultural transformational agenda. In fact, to some extent, now I felt comfortable kakra. But
the senior tax expert, senior man. What the fellas kaya budget the minimum say e buy no. Word by word, what was your shape? A stitch will be a 7 million. Obia can say government policies agent and the budget our day urban. One casano. So steady budget no now share and Yama Hodwa ye in governance. Only baby am penny dear nam see.
I think said my camp was about 2 weeks ago. Budget now era of one penny through the finance minister de abano and no and you may more of transactional a normal things are ube who budget BM
okay
a car dear your debt, your revenue, your expenditure, but the key any the strategic focus main strategic focus new mama and son and
okay twice
back on the big push. And they toss me near 24-hour economy.
10 billion, you know.
Yes, and they toss me and agricultural transformation
so
agenda.
24-hour economy.
Yes,
and a great transformation.
Yes, and no, more visionary. But questioner and answer critique I made mind say, you who content no. I think say minyan say finance minister and say the sector ministers no or more. Budget details will come out, so that's where we are going to see the content. I know they don't have problem with that one, but if you talk about the big push infrastructure, big pusher, and only then what goes into it, because then the baby opposite focus where you are charting the economy on that particular threshold. Can agricultural transformation agenda, and only then because we had planting for food. We had other agri policies. Into a them putting a bit chama or agricultural. A friend is saying inputs any produce. Nah, say there's going to be specific area. Those things we haven't sent them. And about 24-hour economy. It is, I would say, it's a concept which has to be underpinned by policies. In Abia agri, how does it feed into the 24-hour economy? Abia tourism, how does it feed? Maybe a telecommunication, that conceptual framework, no, the current budget na can want some no. What are the embedded contents? No, the visions. Okay, echo. So no, my idea as we the commentators, no, very difficult to evaluate. Because oh no, I think say Brack and be. Once a new government takes off, no, at least you give 6 months. So by the time the next budget review comes, then you should have consolidated wherever the person is going. Other than that, you might give preemptive comments. You yourself, you didn't even evaluate the exact thing. Because when it comes to the transaction aspect, the debt profile, we know the debt profile, and the revenue stream, and the expenditure.
Talking about the big push, allocation at the core, agric, even allocation at core presidency, and communication, bigger than that of the agric. But the back 24-hour economy, I feel now. Minister in charge at the office of the presidency, yes, walk off one year, and Sunday, my okay, and saying, any lex instead of you can, and Yanya baby, you know, you share them who know the so and then the BBI AC Echo. I don't know my young one.
Yeah, I think I know where you are arriving at, but sometimes we must give them the benefit of the doubt. Okay. Much more fairer. Said the Bayer after 6 months, you can read into no criticize it and I say, oh, my punches now. They know say this and this. Okay, the idea come Jubilee House. What is inherent in that expenditure items, you know? And then you can't me and speculate what is going to do now. I just say a chassis abohonka na benefit and I say outcome also no you say oh yeah this guy will say my crowd the bon abrabono crampono it's not benefiting Ghanaians. Then you have got the ample discretionary opportunity to criticize against that particular thing. But then by going forward, the aspect I wanted us to talk more about is the revenue generation and the expenditure. Because that is where it's and you saw say the total expenditure government in a year market, I read it, that's 291 billion Ghana cedis. Yes. And our revenue in a year 223.8 billion. Indeed, naturally there is what deficit gap. And the open they say you. Now, Usha inflation rate are about Nansane. January was 23.5%, February was 23.1%. So it means that Atiaba from 0.4%. In Timima Junimono, say Atiaba from and the government has said we're pegging to 11.9% at the end of the year. So it means that 291 billion. Multiply by 0.4 now at Atiaba from now revenue no multiplier. Then it means to say we are getting about 26.9 billion, more or less like a savings, because a tiba for disposable income no a bejina. A tiba for dollar imbalances no a bit me containing because you don't need additional money to buy the same dollar. The atosomi and san and I see actually say how does it feed into the export reference and projections? Any export and your money kwakotono. That's the aspect I say you're doing home. The atosono import. Import also is also underpinned by forex. International a bit me because SAR 26.9 billion, which translates into $1.8 billion. So for the next 12 months, based on these projections, Sabanit inflation is going to make a lot of savings. And that savings will help it to stabilize the economy, the autonomy, to make sure say subsidy in terms of electricity.
Say by close of the year, inflation above form. Are you sure with me achieve?
And you can hardly sometimes you mustn't make preemptive projections from the point of, but from January to February, you must atiaba form. So at least I know the real you can speak to it. But as to whether say by December 31st, 2025, a bedroom 11.9, there are so many things from now to
more taxes for there, more physical. What me projections will say yes. We share the way economy SC code. First 3 months, Moniama SEC. Now the year comparison, previous years, and what me projection.
Oh yeah. Yes, which me projection, but projections sometimes you have to go the real values. As opposed to the nominals. Because real values, the SC ain't in America, January and February, who the SMCC because about 1.8 billion, it can be saved. Because empha pressure, emma dollar, so empha pressure, emma expenditure, empha pressure, emma revenue. Because the inflation now, equity, a buffer on the threshold of that. But going forward, if you read the budget, about 30% of tax compliance for income tax, any SMEs, non-compliant.
I didn't hear.
Yes, because I told you, said compliance is underpinned by certain factors: the fairness, the equity, the complexity of the tax system, the tax rate, the elasticity of the tax system, sanctions and penalties. Yes, I know we say na a box compliance nature.
Sanctions and penalties never equity net to me.
Thank you. Enti young fans say bia say government na ye the budget. Yes, say ye budget tax. Na manya ntie kra so mo aye propose akra ma parliament a pass anywhere. Ile o ma repealing other ones.
Sanitation minister in charge of minister in charge the to ba na eba.
Oh sir.
Yeah.
Okay. And they say they are in power, so they will be enti wo hwe sa taxes here be ya. Me a me tria tax no. Say me enjoy public goods. Obi a won tria tax no. Also enjoy public goods because you are kwan ensure electricity sika obia that's equity obia but a bus meter tax I pay
pon kataman so fo nso my money so na nkrofo enjoy
when so ntua entia no na e frɛ no distributive justice system entia distribute no obia ansaka entitlement de mehwehwɛ no te sɛ ne chief eken me nsaka nsuo na me sɛ me nsaka na e bi ono so tua tax. But a back can come ho shaman can come ho na onya ninsuo. So that is the entitlement you na ye can want some more tax no onunya e by ye chama Ghana for the chama obia ma electricity na nsuo ne ye den e ye dwuma. Enti now we can say the sanctions aspect no enti we be say okay na sa me kra menya afa enti adwuma no ye the income tax e ya afa na onya dwunu ye friend say adwunupo and emi so bi ntria because the justice system now you can want them the equity now the fairness no onya until it will influence his compliance what behavior so what they are so these are some of the aspects are assessor ye shena ye can
remember whereby ya demra president inside chance your assentia na ba be law taxes are omo year free no normally abeka ho ni year free ho no what's the difference so what here
menya da jinkomu menya briefs no ba me say me true boss na me komu but the mehu ni say growth and the sustainability one ya pagem akosro kakra and income tax act no so no my amendment kakra wom and customs act so I think so and sana VAT act no so no I want to get time and go through very well Oshe sanitation one emission omo ayeden eye free. But question I
emission
oh no, you can pass the law, but you haven't implemented it. So when there's but when you pass the law, at any point in time,
that's it.
But yeah, free home. Now question I beside who say, on says CCR now you increase the growth and sustainability by 2% based on what the budget said. On say multinationals no or more stability
2% man 3%.
Yes, 3%. Yes, by 2% to 3%. Yes, one. Yes, so it means almost profit before tax. No, no teaching you mean every month. As almost 3%. No, once I think say for buying there was some stability. There was some lobby on that one. If you remember early part. Now almost stability clause. The stability clause ne say. Say Oba, especially multinationals now, or more the mining sector, oil and gas, you know. And that's who say you sign contract now for 15 years. 15 years, you know. And you can say touch it. It is almost a quenya no wha. Uber who say we say now, either it should be true dialogue, it should be true gentleman agreement. Say multinationals can say or no so insisting you know was a stability clause advantage now. And I say we now won't so there but minya den mintria. I think that they may have engaged them as to what exactly they want to do about that growth and sustainability a levy of additional 2% now they have become. But one aspect in this maybe what I saw
engage you on multinationals no more edgy to more as we
so be it. So that then I can say sometimes no gentleman agreement no and fact we need
because world market for example to say gold they say world market price
no, it's gone up yes
until say so once what the kakra ba betu ha say I mean fair deal
and there we don't have problem on that one but that is not only all they say something about the natural resource rent percentage that's about
so I mean Felix kakra taxes on
well on say of amufa
taxes are His Excellency the President then candidate John Mahama now can do can so about be free ho and then you who say is anymore.
Well, to some extent, you know, Ghanaians want more. You know, we tax in every hokra. We will be happy. Okay. That one, no, to say income tax, Marteso from 25% and a corporate tax from 25%. When you are prudent, you don't need to tax more. Prudent in the management of funds of the state. Nothing will increase the base of the tax. Ubi 100 98 year 2 penal cannot
100 2
So that is the problem. And you know, I'm looking at the strategy. I say Bola tax, COVID they say IMF they had to agree with them before. And Sana said to me, Juma. So some of these taxes and yet necessarily a buying willingness they buy. Maybe because of the nation's inability to be independent, now IMF muno and therefore so those taxes at the brain. So you can't easily wake up and then get rid of them. For example, the COVID.
But they were telling us on Bombay.
Well, send your political platform.
And again, in your first time I did call IMF, so be sure IMF conditionality so bad you go for the
say say benefit. The institutions, the companies say what have benefit from the regime now. Obey negotiations they will not be at loss.
Yes, but so, and on before what I'm trying to say, listen,
but you need it. You need the support.
What I'm trying to say is may buy and or more for negotiations. Skills and now and strong sir because freeze on employment, almost the above back. Okay, almost saying yes, sanity. But I didn't say yes, sanity.
Whichever way it is,
you know, because if you must say and replace it.
Only pani me out many. Na upe duania dear free where we me out more. No, what no. There has been a change of government, and you know he want to see say the investment away they are not going to lose. So we lose guard, they will take advantage of it.
That's the way we lose guard.
They will take advantage because they want their money. It's gonna get free.
I agree.
And so they want, you know, whichever way it is, you know, we want to see say to how this government is going to win the nation out of these Britain Wood institutions. Nearby so independent by making sure say yet we are generating more for ourselves. And the generation for ourselves not only on taxation. A nation that depends only on taxation, you know, maybe I'm yet to see the one that has developed say be a taxation going and on my yes, countries pay taxes, but they have a major sources of bargaining power and only depending on any income developing.
For example, say UK yes, so more tax system no
rigid
or more other income but
huge.
Through or visa year or
so they have their multinationals scattered all around. They are sending forests here and there. Revenue from here going back, revenue from here going back. And so that is what a government will have to do. And to look at a transformation agenda, what are you doing agricultural sector? So you ensure say more exports, add more value to your natural resources, more exportation to bring in more income into the country. Then here with our resources. And so that is what I want to see this budget and policy objectives address. Not on minor to me not to taxes. Me I said it the tax arms they are enough. We don't need new ones. So new ones maybe economy now expanded and new areas has come. And I will call those areas and say tax. Because other than that, sir see, I was in sanitation minister say over say maybe bola be tuaka and you're free. On the fan bola I pay. So what tax again do you want to tax me? So when you are doing that, because my bola one the time I want to dispose of my rubbish, me waste, I pay for it. Until I didn't, and I will have to introduce a new tax regime to come and then tax me again. And that one will be double jeopardy on the citizens. Now the more hardship buyers. So as for a state, you know.
Well, when someone says if chief, we can't say if Chief Justice is bad, then the swearing in of John Mahama is also bad. Interesting.
Garbage out.
Interesting. Wherever the one was well in, I someone made us say, Oran Solomon Cree says, His Excellency John Mahama and his NDC government should not think for a minute that they are going to overthrow the constitution by their actions and inactions, because whatever a man sow, that is what he reap. I say kasa. Yeah, me the will be and this one says, without prejudice, you may please pardon me to say that from all indications, the NDC government has taken off symbolically, and this trend should not be shielded. In the next 2 months, the 6 months will be elapsed, and listening to your panelists, it appears he is pouring out with his tongue in cheek. A spade must be called a spade. Coming event cast their shadows. Ukuseku by 6 months in a drew.
Catch your cookies.
Take off on
the conjecture may be wrong. We don't want to draw conclusions like presumptions. We may get it wrong. In any circumstance, you don't know what is going to happen in the next 2 months now. Already, you have said inflation is coming down. Maybe your assumptions be by the time you and bed and I'm 11.9.
And Sylvester Sari says inflation is down. Said you're more calm. Good, but let's understand that inflation is down not necessarily because of what is happening now. It may be because of what happened last year. Normally, lower inflation follows a period of higher inflation because of higher consumer price index numbers. We should also not see inflation as the problem, but a symptom of underlying economic condition. Until such conditions are resolved, current inflation changes may not be sustainable.
Okay.
And lo and behold, tax expectations what they are saying.
Okay. Yeah. So, Mami Muriam Kakra, Neo Kano, me follow up on 1 or 2 points. You see, inflation itself is not a bad thing. We should take here. Last year, they made $262 billion in export revenue. In 2000, you talk about exports. 262 billion. It's not small money.
Dollars were not
export earnings from new mom in TCNC we can do that. But coming back to we say no, say young funny tech, the consumer spending alone. Ahano consumer spending, yankasa ni eti anankasa no. Your disposable income you're saying. Your savings you're saying. Your investments you're saying. Enti yankasa na ye di ye ho ahanankasa no. We can't spend to sustain the economy. That is one key. Japan, US, they have about 64% consumer spending what? Rate. It is almost a country be Accra and US for any ija. Or one can sustain 64%. Can we do that? Those are the questions.
No, you can't.
So the consumer spending now all can that is where it has to be underpinned by government policy. Say, one, okay, we want to generate 223 billion Ghana cedis. And then that is where a bit creative growth, a bit creative employment,
whereby
a bit creative job.
Your war coronavirus period. I was asking, let me beside economists, why is government spending? I mean, we are saying baby, but government projects in air course. When they were telling me, say, without government spending,
yes, it tax. Last 2 years, government budget 77% of our revenue should come from tax. That's not bad. But Yensaka, is that all? That's the question. We haven't averted our minds to the non-tax revenue. I remember 2016, rationalization war, Minister of Finance. Yeah, the tax division and the tax division in Bomono. Our projections, the non-tax revenue to GDP ratio, only 4%. And I'm saying, hey, you were multinationals, waha, you were gold resources, waha, you were cocoa resources, waha. Your tourism, your those things. So, do they constitute the 4% of GDP? That was a question that we need to ask ourselves. Because the issue is that
it's
so small. Okay. And I've seen the budget that they want to shore up that aspect of the non-tax revenue. It's very key. And it is underpinned. You see, they are talking about import substitution. For me, I don't buy in so much for import substitution. It should be export-led growth. Yeah. From the 70s and 80s, Brazil, South Korea, Thailand, Mexico, we are export-led economy. No? Now look at their GDP, even Indonesia. Yeah. You were multinationals or yes, you be see the same company and computer. On this car, on expertise on who need technology on who need. Hence, yes, we should be a competitive advantage. You know, oh, you call no. Say what we need to do. We say, oh, northern part of Africa now, Libya, Algeria, friend say Libya and Egypt, any Morocco, any Tunisia, no, on cocoa products. So what we need to do is say, yeah, Gigi cocoa na say to cocoa na. A buying spending particular percentage. See, the specialized cocoa products. Omo pepper, nyanyo, enu packed. So okay, yeah, cocoa no. Yeah, they are quite common. Yeah, this case is here. A bilateral what relationship. And here they are free warm. And is we are all under WTO. On to me can say, own to say, you know. And at every point in time, beyond cocoa na yet na. Yeah, they call Benya so I call $2 billion. Now send a swati kakra. Now your percentage those African countries, Northern African countries now, it is a start. It's something very good start to contend with. And you won't say, over time, you know, at every point in time, budget, you know, the monies that we have received from Northern Africa, no, you say, accrued liabilities or that's the debtors and receivables, no, you say, it becomes what? Recurring. It becomes what? Continuous. And this is one aspect. Yeah, try to say, you better diversify your economy. No, now uko ye a new man or no brony no wants to me say, wow, you can't compete.
How do you compete?
You can't compete. So much as I'm happy that you've talked, yeah, that we talk much more about the tax. But the issue is tax na bani hand in near payba. That's the simplest thing. It's one because the national. Oh, young fans say Medina Hanum. Now it is speculated that the businesses in this area they are not paying taxes. GI fund the tax force enforcement a year. Amount for a big jinaso for books to brano. Abai is going to get a lot of what revenue because the enforcement aspect, as far as compliance is concerned, you know, which me I enforce it, which me I activate. But a kobako a year. Untimi kasi koko na just say yedua say ebre say so say it will how any koko revenue no kra na you get it
me da say me kan dey bra ho na fe me mam 2 minutes there okay the Franco Trading Enterprise wadaro ma busuafo ye na mo ase enani aye hwe eye ne ekoso Ghana ha ye tax eto edin komo bia de mpanifo ka kire say abanya de budget ba eno na ebe kire ba bia ye ko say budget number ye share ho ba bia ye ko mpanifo no say ye ma ban 6 months na ye hwe okuse da bi ade no 6 months no aduru ha wie o the next 2 months na abosumi nnumu an ye wo no 6 months no aduru ha wie ba to bendem ni nyina mu no as I say life eto aso nti ye be ko Franco Trading Enterprise na ya koboa amanie ma wo de abaye fofofo no ye nso yetumi ato bi ko online www.francotrading.com be ko no omoni amani nyina wo ho eyefo TV na wo pe air conditioner or per tabletop fridges, refrigerators, ahodo. The na wohwe a wonya bi ewo CCTV cameras. Mesre wa tobi na yem famro. Camera no pese install ma ba be install e de ama. O ma outlet ne doors nti hia se bi abedu ani be kire eye adabra main officer ne Roxy Cinema ne hwe ani mo no. Frɛ na ba bi a wo no ye nkyerɛ ba bi a wo kwa obenya ye ne ma no bi ato Franco or si phone ti papa fie 0555939311 0555939311 na one Franco Trading Enterprise phone ko bodi na enkoso Felix the next 2 minutes ye kwa ko wie na me mo open wie na so
yeah so nia ye hwe ni mu ye say we propose expenditure rationalization then no mudi sika no mu bejeje 222 or 23 billion ebe corruption be different and I said you will observe expand the tax base then obey to make sure say the padodo na then it get as bri I will say where some tax handles at the free way you want to see say kakra na aka no you make sure you mobilize more people Now, non-tax revenue, increase the non-tax revenue aspect of revenue. Then no mobile agricultural transformation agenda no go konkete ni grain production ni vegetable production. Who say in the agricultural transformation agenda they are going to mechanize agriculture for us. The OG and SICA 222 billion now. We say farmers will be supported. Now to me produce more. We produce more agricultural value chain. What are you doing to increase export? Let there create jobs on say we produce raw materials, so you need additional industries. In the sectors are more strong. Yeah, over to me, I use as bargaining chip. US, Russia, even the West, and Russia, India, Akazakasa, now Russia, kasi be close here pipe for supplying you gas. I know in the European region, no block, no because now gas supply the bargaining chip for Russia. And these are some of the things that Bema economy are stable. Reduce your cana, a walk on their mind. Now increase export. Now creating jobs, no be any sika. No D. Now expenditure level now that is what we want to experience. So by 6 months' time, we will come and digest them again.
Before then, the example. When I trust are there and I will be natural there, sure, but I will Facebook war. Kudos to JDM. The scrapping of the e-levy shows that the support for this anti-poor tax was given without much thought, but poorly on partisan lines. Excessive partisanship breeds madness, but it's only a fool who doesn't change his mind.
Professor Jambu.
Yeah, Jambu.
Well, ese opinions are like
Yama wa Juma say Fama o my Juma say obeye. Me ubeti me a tena wa Juma Ghana Shippers Authority na ye wa Juma.
And me tie
na baby a won nam no.
Me tie post to be obi kai was it since Nancy or that ship bundi.
Baby a won nam no. Asa niam bi fufu, asa niam bi fufu nti no. O kasa. Ghana na wo no Jampo. You extra careful. Na Ghana na wonam no na your friend say na ntwie no a na ne dua no say anka ho na ekodi konfo nsem a and so you hu yi because onka say any bi ho no a emfa to bo ase na o ya kasa dodo ya mo adwuma say ye wote egbefebo no mo ano kasa so obi a on the style there but oje na adwuma na no kwache hodi waje asemba waje so bi boni di wa prayer ya adwuma na mo we are still out as na politics ni mu na o kasa yo 1 minute
opinions are like no
o dey man somebody futu na bitu na ne wo no
you see increasing revenue
1 minute
o dey man be 2 minutes increasing revenue no media me a problem share ye living if you are fine I mean government policy you need problem you need assembly become but you can't increase the tax net with this current format of collecting taxes. From 1957 your tax to GDP ratio no 13%. Senka increase in here, you know, a year Juma, other than still 13%. That's the question.
And on that note,
that going forward, you know, it is the electronic platform because I need a real time as to how it's done. Because you see, the
Obama has electronic tax.
Me patch me back. Me patch me. There.
I say what kind electronic?
Patch me back.
Why 11?
Patch me back. No. Opposite what say electronic. If you are methodology. If you have to say via income tax, electronic means to collect them.
No, that be now. Also, one person, man, pennies or one person. Electronic.
Enti say Yajia to say ye no free ho dia. Na baby we are saying so. A Trumirika Kono, a electronic platform there. Then, as I say, we must evaluate because part of the budget, you know, I can say we use electronic means, technology competencies to increase tax collection, to boost tax. I mean the tax net. It's there. So, say you way free hono. how are we going to use technology to boost tax collection? Those are the questions we ask ourselves.
Because he live in technology no be to we and to the buy and keke no be say masa dey you na aka say e to no doors wo kro ma do na Felix Mantem dance over
so me that's it
cancel do
That's
over production team na if a long weekend we sabre copy mu kuada no pa na on behalf of Ora John Dramani Mahama na so ba membu pa no ani abere a o de me for ma sa ho meja we chiro ba bi o de ani a kire. It's all about politics. We din e de amofa wache e free Jordan no pa kwakwa boaje ma me na wase any team ni nyina na wase o radio na afi o mo so eboa o TV really came here now as a focus as a nafi na justice and the jano question ninsi one maka na obi ase nyame ya domo a ukuada no pa ibihia akro
ye kwakwa ye party